I still believe in Akash, and why is that? Even though nothing I say is financial advice, in today's video, I want to take a look at a hypothetical scenario where, let's say, maybe a KT, Akash's native token, were to, let's say, hypothetically go to the price of $25. Now, why don't I find this maybe too much to ask for? It's because I think Akash represents a pretty interesting project to me, and I think it's very unique. Let me explain why. Akash is the world's first decentralized super cloud. Now, some people may be thinking, oh, it's kind of boring, but really, if we take a look at many other projects out there that are launching because there are so many launch pads and, people are just launching random meme coins, it feels like this actually has somewhat substance in the fundamentals, in my opinion. Because, for instance, to put this in simple terms, right, a cloud in this case is someone's computer, you know, sitting out there in a data center. Now, keep in mind, there's millions of data centers out there around the world. However, many of these data centers, they have a lot of unused capacity. Now, this is where something like Akash steps in. Let me explain why. Because, for instance, it takes this available capacity and quite essentially it creates a super cloud. Quite essentially, that connects the private and public clouds in a decentralized manner. So I think that's pretty interesting. Again, it's unused capacity anyways. So I find this very interesting and it's a pretty unique concept. If I were to put kind of like an analogy on this, even though of course it's not a direct comparison, but I'm just going to say it nonetheless. It's like, for instance, let's say, I have a home and then I have an apartment. I'm not using the apartment. I just rent it out, for Airbnb or something like that because, it's being unused anyways, right? So then that's kind of like the concept here a little bit in a sense. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, when it comes to Akash, what is kind of the benefit of, let's say, what I just mentioned before? Like, for instance, one of the benefits that I think Akash arguably does through what it's doing is it gives better access to resources. Like, for instance, getting GPUs. GPU stands for graphic processing unit, but even besides that, again, getting GPUs for AI. Now, I find this very interesting because if we take a look at the AI market, for instance, it is predicted to reach nearly $2 trillion in value by 2030. I mean, that's pretty massive. If, let's say, ever were to reach that, because after all, it is just like, a prediction, I would assume, that would be bigger than a lot of countries' GDP. So I find that very fascinating nonetheless. And I think sometimes when people think about Akash, some of my friends out there, they would say, oh, it's a little bit boring. It's not that interesting. But I find it very interesting nonetheless because I think it's a very unique concept. Other projects out there, maybe they don't really care about this type of stuff, but I like how Akash is. And let's say AKT were to go to the price of $25. Considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $6 billion, and that's around a 16x from here. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, around a 16x. How is that good? Now, the way you take a look at it, of course, is going to depend on a case-by-case basis, but it doesn't seem bad to me. I'm not telling anyone to do anything when it comes to AKT, but this is just my perspective. I mean, for instance, right? BNB is doing very well, but how can that do, like, let's say, around a 16x? Let's say in the next 6 to 10 months from where it is as of right now. Also, not to mention, Ethereum, going to the price of 10 grand, that's not even a 3x, right? Take a look at something like Bitcoin, let's say it went to 300 grand, that's also not even a 3x from where it is as of right now. It's less than a 3x actually. So in my opinion, sure, when it comes to some random microcap out there, hypothetically, who knows, maybe some of them might outperform arguably AKT in the next 6 to 10 months. But then, in my opinion, there's a lot of uncertainty with that because, again, by nature, these microcaps, very low market cap, right? I just don't know if they will ever be able to achieve something. But again, that's going to be, dependent on the project, but I just don't want to take that chance, quite essentially. So what do I want to do? I want to find something that is not a microcap, but then not some like, arguable, some people would say like dinosaur type of projects where the market cap is just way too massive. So I think AKT, even though again, it's not the biggest project out there, it's not the smallest project out there, I like the balance in between. This is the way to take a look at it. So it fits what I'm looking for. Now, again, some people out there may have different criterias, but this is just my personal perspective when it comes to this. Now, keep in mind, though, I'm not only just holding AKT, but again, I just want to have it as one of my pieces in my portfolio. Now, we have to take a look at, let's say, for instance, $25 again. Hypothetically, at that price, market cap, considering current circulating supply, would be around $6 billion. Now, a $6 billion market cap, keep in mind, we've seen like Dogecoin reach over 80 billion back in 2021 in terms of market cap. And I get it, Dogecoin, way more fans, way more popular, but then the way I view it is that back in 2021, during the peak of that bull run, around 300 million crypto owners. Now we have over 600 million. Not to mention, we take a look at the hype for the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, the number of institutional, I would say, or enterprise adoption. It just feels like it's through the roof. So then, if there's like more bullish factors, arguably, I would say right now, when compared to back then, what would that say, right? Altcoins do if we ever see a fully fledged type of altcoin season. Now, altcoins are beginning to have a pretty decent recovery in some cases I see, but then AKT, it hasn't done as good as some altcoins out there. But then the way I take a look at it was that I saw what AKT did not too long ago, and arguably what it did back then, it was during a time where many people would say that that's not even a fully fledged type of altcoin season. So if AKT was able to do that back then, what would AKT do if the market conditions were, let's say, far better? Let's say there was a fully fledged type of altcoin season. Let's say maybe Bitcoin went to maybe 250 grand, 300 grand, who knows? So again, when I take a look at something like that, $25, I mean, I do not know the future. There's no guarantees, but the way you take a look at it is that considering the market cap, considering, the fundamentals of Akash, that would not surprise me. But again, only time will tell. And I'm not telling anyone to do anything when it comes to AKT, but this is just my perspective. Now, the way I view it as well is that AKT, the exchange listings are pretty good. I'm not going to say it's the best because I don't think it is, but I think it's pretty decent. And I think Akash has a good community. I think the community is very passionate. I think they're very driven. So then the way you take a look at it is that it doesn't seem like that bad of a project to me. I'm actually very excited when it comes to Akash. I am a fan of it because I like the unique concept behind it. I find it very interesting. And some people may be wondering, okay, how soon? Now, again, I do not know the future, but at least I can take a look at the past. And I'll just, talk about what I noticed from the past, right? Because usually altcoins, as a worst case scenario, historically speaking, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. Now, we add 18 months from the last Bitcoin halving event, which happened last year in April. So we're already actually over a year removed from then, but then we're not 18 months, right? 18 months would actually mean October of this year. Now, is that a guarantee? I do not think so, because who knows? That's based off history. It could be different this time around. But when people out there like to say, oh, even if it happens maybe in December, that's too little time. Well, the way you take a look at it is that take a look at Bitcoin, which is literally the biggest project out there in this space as of right now. Take a look at how fast that moved, right? Take a look at how fast that recovered and reached a new all-time high not too long ago. And that is literally, again, the biggest project out there. So what would an altcoin do, right? Which AKT is. We've seen even in the past how fast AKT moved back then, right? So the way you take a look at it is that, sure, that may seem like a relatively short amount of time, but this is not like, the S&P 500. This is not gold, where things typically take, quite a while to do, any of those type of significant, like very massive moves, arguably, I would say. No matter when the timeline is, October, December, sometime in Q1 of 2026, whatever the case may be, there's only one thing that I can control. I'm going to correct myself there, and that is myself. And what am I going to be doing? Dollar cost averaging, holding, and waiting, and that's literally about it. Beyond that, all I can do is stay patient, but I do like the direction in which altcoins are heading as of right now, and I am a fan of Akash in terms of its fundamentals. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'll greatly appreciate it. It's only the captain, and I'll catch you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.